Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today. Everybody, please go to am950radio.com and stream, but also go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I need you to like and subscribe. Please, I need you to like and subscribe and build up our numbers. We're really appreciative of all that you all are doing in that regard. We need you to do more. Everybody share the show too, Robert. Ashley King down there in Memphis, Tennessee. Dave up in Canada. Andre here in Chicago. Everybody, Caribbean Queen. Hey, sweetheart, blessings to you. Please like and share the show, everybody. Like and share. Like and share with at least one person, but like and share, like and share, like and share. I can tell from some of the incoming fire that we've gotten over the past few days that somebody's listening, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing, and I'm glad about it. Please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That's the only place where I can get friends. You know, Facebook puts a ceiling on a personal page. I didn't know anything about any of this when I got into the space because I am a private person. So my friends were shocked to see me on Facebook, but I am there. But I found that they also have a ceiling on how many people they can put on a personal page. So I had to open up what they call a fan page, the Santita Jackson and Friends page. So many of you, I mean, every day I get more friend requests, but I can't accept them. I can't accept them. So what I need you to do is go to Santita Jackson and Friends so that I can accept them there. Otherwise, if I accept you in the other space, the personal space, which you have to have in order to get a fan page, they will kick you off. This is just terrible. And I can't transfer people over. So help me out, everybody, if you will. Please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page and join me there. And of course, on Twitter at Santita J, at Santita J. Please become my friend there and like and share the show. Like and share the show. We're going to be talking about a couple of things. In the second hour, we're going to be talking about Governor Josh Shapiro. He keeps coming up because people are questioning the judgment of Vice President Harris. Why didn't she pick him? Was she being anti Semitic? I think that's a stretch. She's married to a Jewish fellow, not to mention the fact that she has always been very supportive of Israel. Very, very supportive. That having been said, there are a lot of calculations that go into why you choose someone. But we're going to have Sam Rosenthal from one of the groups that took the lead on saying Josh Shapiro is a no go. So we want him to lay out the case for Josh Shapiro not being on the ticket. What did they and many other groups see? Because Pastor Marshall Hatch from the New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, the founder of the Ma'afa Redemption Project, and Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, Democrat coming to Chicago in a hot second, can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. There are a lot of reasons. There are a lot of calculations. You know this as a pastor, Pastor Hatch. You know this as an elected official, Representative Reynolds. You never make decisions in a vacuum. You just, it's a lot of little things. And it's oftentimes it's the little things that make you say, I'm going to go over here. I can't explain it to you, but it's a feel, it's something. But now let's talk about racism and sexism on the campaign trail. And it's interesting. I have men with me today. And sometimes, it's like Bill Cosby for years would be asked on, because he's been mainstream forever. He would be asked by Larry King and Johnny Carson if it was The Moment or any of the big hosts about race questions. He said, don't ask me about race questions. People are like, well, no, he never pushed back on race. There's no one who's been more supportive of Black people than Bill Cosby. Before he had Bill Cosby Show money, he and his wife were sending kids to college. They've sent hundreds of kids to college personally. Personally. For example, my parents would not have been able to run for president personally had it not been for them. You cannot earn money when you are a candidate. He knew my parents hadn't made a lot of money. He said, stop. You can't not run, but let's work this out. That's who these people are. But his reasoning was this. He said, you know what? And there's so many people that he's helped and assisted. It's unbelievable. He said, look, I didn't start this fire. I can't put it out. Now my body of work attests to the majesty of my people. That having been said, you need to ask Bob Newhart and Bob Hope and these white comedians about racism and how they react to it. Let them do that. Don't just put the onus on me. Y'all need to answer the question. And I thought that was really, really smart. Put it back. I didn't start this. You all need to put this out. So there is pushback from men, of course. And Larry King, you're right, Dave. Well, he was an awesome interviewer. My father said he was the best. And he's been interviewed by everybody. And you said, he would ask questions and he'd get out the way. But you knew that he knew the subject because of the questions that he asked. So that having been said, let's talk about sexism and racism on the campaign trail. Yesterday, we saw a couple of things that were interesting. The 2016 race was the first time we saw a woman had a major ticket. And many people reacted very strongly to then candidate Trump literally physically trolling Hillary Clinton during the debates. And it was offensive because it looked aggressive, but she was time enough for him now. But it wasn't a good look, right? But they were both running for the most powerful seat in the world. So y'all, this is what comes with it. People bring anything that they have in their arsenal. And I did not say that they would play fair. That's what they do. That's how it works. You know this. And if you don't, you're going to find it out. So there's that. Yesterday, it turns out that Senator J.D. Vance, candidate J.D. Vance, was on the same tarmac as the vice president. And he was he was going to confront her coming off the plane. It did not happen, but he was ready to do it. And J.D. Vance is a physically big guy. But he was going to do that. And with all that he is, he was going to wait on that tarmac for her to, and going to dare the plane to roll over him. That's how these people are playing. That's what they do. That having been said, she faced a heckler. Vice President Harris faced a heckler in the crowd. Oh, Yellow Rain, that's what happened. She faced a heckler in the crowd. Someone who is supportive of Palestinian rights. And everybody's trying to conflate the violence with people who support Palestinian rights. That's absolutely untrue. The people who broke up the encampments were the pro-Israel supporters. And they have been violent. And there's an LA Times investigation that showed that that's what happened in LA, but it's been at UCLA, but it's been happening everywhere. So, let's be clear on that. But that is the conflation that's happening. That having been said, having said that, she snapped back. At first, she said, okay, we believe in free speech. They should say what they have to say. They continued. She said, look, if you want President Trump again, to paraphrase her, well, then, you just keep on saying that. Oh, mic drop. Some people said, ooh, ouch, not the way to handle it. Other people said, good on her. So we're uncomfortable still with women who are in very powerful positions. State Representative Ron Reynolds, I'll start with you. I'm always struck by something that Shirley Chisholm said to us, to my family personally. She said, when I ran for president, I thought that my biggest hurdle was going to be racism. But the biggest hurdle I faced, the wall I hit, was sexism. Because I hit it from not just white men, but Black men. All men had a pushback against a woman in power. I was just a little bit too much. I wasn't in my place. And I believe that is what we're dealing with Kamala Harris today. We dealt with it with Hillary Clinton. Sexism is real deep. They said in the 2008 campaign that I think Nick Kristof from the New York Times also said of the campaign in which you saw Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama facing off. He said, one thing we do know, racism is wide, but sexism is deeper because it's to the bone marrow. Remember, black men were freed before black women were, on paper. I mean, because that's just how this stuff was written. So, what role do you think sexism will play, or is playing in this campaign, Representative Reynolds? And and of course, we can't take racism out of it because she is a black woman. She is a Southeast Asian woman. She's both, everybody. She was raised by her mother, but she is identified as a black person because in America they make you make that choice. But is she supposed to throw her mother and that heritage out the window? I mean, come on. Let's grow up in our politics. That's her mom. Her mom wasn't making, she was making naan, not cornbread, and that's okay. I mean, not bad. Stop it. So, what about sexism and racism? Do you see it playing a role? And if so, how do you see it?
Well, good morning, Santita. Absolutely. We can play utopia and um, denialism all we want to and say,
Hmm.
oh, no, everyone is judged based on their qualifications and no one looks at race or gender, but we know that's not true. We know that even in 2024, that sexism is alive and well and it exists. And in the case of Kamala Harris, it's some would call it a double negative. I'm not saying it's a negative, but it is what it is. And some people are judging her in a different standard because she's a female and she happens to be both, like you said, African American and Indian, so biracial. So I believe that to a certain segment of the population, no matter what she does, in terms of how more qualified she is. 4 years as vice president, former attorney general, former, uh, you know, prosecutor. She is still not good enough because she's a female. And no matter what she does, her education, her pedigree, her experience, no matter what, she will always be subservient because of sexism. And these are the same people that hold the views that women should not be in the pulpit. Women should not be in the army. Women shouldn't be playing football and sports like that. So there's a certain mindset that some people have, and it's not just um, men; it's some women.
Absolutely.
I remember when Hillary Clinton ran, and then you looked at the polls and the fact that there are many white women who did not vote for her and they voted for Donald Trump.
Hmm.
So the reality is that Kamala Harris has to overcome that bias, that prejudice that exists in our society. Now we've evolved and come a long way, but we still haven't reached the point where we see that women and men are, I mean, you still have like Santita, there's still, you said it before on the show before, there's still disparities.
Hmm.
There's still a need for equal pay for equal work. And then black women are even worse when it comes to how in the inequality for pay. And so the point I'm making is that yes, it exists. And what JD Vance did was an act of that kind of entitlement attitude,
Hmm.
that superiority attitude. And I hope that many men will come to the aid and comfort. And this is a call to action to black men to
Hmm.
protect our sister and to say, not on our watch will we allow you to disrespect one of our own. And yes, she is our own. We're not going to let other people diminish the fact that she is African American. And so, as a person who has two daughters, Santita, I am proud to see a woman that is poor, a woman of color, by the way, to
Hmm.
poised to break that glass ceiling. I look forward to helping her get elected, not based on her gender, not based on her race, but based on her qualifications. She is competent, capable, and qualified. And there is no comparison when you look at pedigree between her and Donald Trump. There's no, it's apples and oranges. And so, yes, but sexism is real, and there is you can't like um,
Well, no, let me ask you
teach
this. What
morality,
is it?
right? You can't teach
What,
morality. It's in
but yeah,
people's
but what
hearts.
is the pushback? I mean, because I mean, look, when you all shut the locker room door, I know it. Pastor Hatch is about to pass you the floor because I'm about to ask you all to reveal state secrets, Pastor. You know, your space, they are still not allowing women in the pulpit, even though we're the backbones of the church. You know what First Lady Hatch does to keep New Mount Pilgrim going. Because when y'all got to that church, it was on the two of you. The financial responsibility, the spiritual responsibility, and all of that. There's a reason you got a first lady in the church because she's got to deal with it all. Now, I got to shout out to Pastor Hatch's wife, the first lady. And I mean, while she's lifting you up and raising these children, and she's the catch-all for the congregation because sometimes you need a softer pillow to talk. Well, should I talk to the pastor about this? She catches all of that. She can't. Well, my child wants to go to school. What do you think? Well, I'm having trouble. She's doing all of that. But let me just ask you, give me some state secrets, State Representative Ron Reynolds. Just what is it that when you all shut the door, that is objectionable? And I'm not here to beat you up. I want to know what is up. What is it about women? I mean, what is it about women that men object to in terms of our leadership?
Well, Santita, I'm gonna say this. There's still some men who believe that a woman's role should be subservient. A woman should be more domestic. A woman should be taking care of the kids. A woman should be a homemaker. There's still some old-fashioned mindsets when it comes to uh, the ideal image of a man and a woman. A man should be the provider. A man should be the one who brings home the bacon. So there's still some old, antiquated way of thinking that is more masculine and more, male dominated in terms of where a woman should be. But it's wrong. I mean, there's no justification for it. But yes, it does still exist. I know some men who, when we're talking in private, they're saying, hey, I don't want my woman making more than me. I mean, what difference should it make? But they feel like they would feel less of a man if their woman made more than them because that's that male ego saying, "Hey, I'm the head of the house. I'm the one that makes the decisions and makes the money or makes more money." And so we see now there are so many more women, and particularly Black women, with more education, more income. And for some men, I know they can't handle that. It takes a strong man to be able to
And
embrace that.
they're gonna
And,
get
and that's
left
not
behind.
right. But I'm just giving it to you real, Santita. So part
What I
of it is
thought.
just that old way of the conditioning that some men have received. And it's a learned behavior, right? Just like racism is a learned behavior. Sexism is learned and is passed on from other men. And so we have to break that cycle. We have to, and it takes a real man to be able to talk to another man about equal equality in terms of men and women. Even I've even heard some men in the pulpit some that justify, you know, I don't get into a debate, but how is a woman should obey the husband and things like that. So they take that obey like she needs to do what I tell her to do, So
Mhm.
I mean, it's just some way of antiquated thinking, Santita. There's no real justification for it.
Okay, because I wasn't asking for a justification. I just wanted you kind of to take us in, Pastor Hatch. Take us in. I mean,
What are
sexism,
they gonna?
racism. How do you think this is impacting? Or you can pick up from where he is because you're in a very traditional space, right? Why
Not
do
necessarily.
and it shouldn't be, but look, what is it? The Southern Baptist Convention just had
And,
what?
they're losing converts. I mean,
Okay,
all of that is gonna be left behind.
okay, but
I mean,
what is the
it's
thinking that drives that, Pastor Hatch?
well, it just means that you're antiquated and your thinking pattern. You're not in the modern world, in the world as we know it. You're not in the 21st century.
But what is the
The
old
fact of the
thinking?
matter is,
What is it?
the old thinking is, it's patriarchy. Everything flows through the man.
Mhm.
And of course, let me tell you, I teach on two faculties, a liberal one and one a little less liberal, Northern Seminary, but progressive nonetheless. The hottest theology on the planet is womanist theology.
What is that?
That is looking at God from the bottom up, and then the absolute bottom in terms of the power dynamic we live under would be the black woman.
Mhm.
The black woman was the lowest, the least protected human being in the American slaveocracy. And it means in order to see where God is, you're going to have to see God through her eyes.
Mhm.
You're going to have to see God through the eyes of Hagar and not just Sarah.
Mhm.
And so it is the slave woman who has the most potent theology on the planet. And everybody's studying this in schools all over the country, indeed all over the world. It's all a part of liberation theology. And so it all begins to make theological sense what we're looking at. That when it comes to saving the country, maybe even the planet, of course, God is going to go to the absolute bottom from the bottom up. Now, Kamala doesn't have to understand any of this, but that's the spiritual energy on the planet.
Mhm.
And, even in my church, I got 4 kids. My daughters are the 2 oldest. My sons are the 2 youngest. Age span from 40 to 28. The most dynamic leaders out of my children, and it's no shade, my sons would concur, are my daughters. They're incredible leaders. And they're natural. And as you would know, Santita, there's this incredible organic energy with fathers and daughters. So, if we were kind of studying Kamala, I'd love to know what that relationship was like with her dad who taught at Sanford, because that relationship tends to produce very powerful women.
You look at Aretha Franklin.
Oh, absolutely. All of
I mean,
that.
I mean,
All of that.
it's my father is the one who told me, wait, wait, wait. Marriage is not an achievement, Pastor Hatch. It's something you do. He said, now when you achieve, I want you to be what God sent you here to do. You're not Siamese. He
Yes.
said, so he said,
And
don't think
my
you're gonna
girls,
bring some man home and impress daddy.
they
That's not.
believe, they believe in, they believe in, and they believe they behave in powerful ways. And then they say, you taught us this, daddy.
Hello.
You taught us how to be like this. I mean, so it's a powerful relationship. And it's the lens through which I have grown personally as a man. Has been my relationship with my wife and my daughters, my sisters, but especially my daughters. It's a fascinating relationship. And so, the distinction between Kamala and Hillary, for example, in this season, is that Kamala is a self-made woman. She's not running as the former spice as a spouse of a former president. She's running on her own right with a husband she's been married to 10 years, which means
Mhm.
she's built her own career in politics. And anybody that knows what they're looking at knows that she did not get there because she's some shrinking violet.
But
And,
let me
and
let me jump in here because this is the thing because and I know you don't mean this and you didn't imply it. I don't infer it. But when Bill Clinton reportedly, according to his biographies and according to things that he's quite frankly that he has said, Um, his wife looked at Hillary, who was not the cheerleader type, because he was, always with beautiful girls. And she was like, well, honey, are you serious right now? And he said, it's either her or it's nobody. Because he knew that without her, he was not going to go anywhere. Um, Michelle Obama said, "Well, yeah, I'm glad he's president, but don't think that if I chose to marry somebody else, I would have made him president too." And she wasn't hot on him going into politics. I mean, so because Hillary Clinton put aside her ambitions to help Bill Clinton because of the nature of the times, 50 years ago, right? But, because of the nature of the times, Kamala Harris was able to build, in another way. And I don't think a black woman would have gotten the space, because most black women are not able to be at home, number one, and raise their kids. So there's that. But I wanted to establish that. Um, but when you look at them, I mean, because you are a very progressive guy, one only because I've known Pastor Hatch for decades, and I mean your children are very progressive in their thinking. I mean, and these are children who have had the highest educational attainment, State Representative Reynolds, and yet they come back to the community that really needs them the most. So it says so much about the Hatch family that they've put that in their children. I want to put help me to see, Pastor Hatch, because the zeitgeist is really putting us toward of the womanist space, the spirit of the times. But the fact is, those are the facts. The facts are we still are a real part of us is still in another time. As a woman, I need you to help me to understand that thinking, because it's something, Pastor Hatch, that I really I don't understand. Can you help? What is it? When men resist women in leadership, what is the issue? Because this gobsmacked Shirley Chisholm. He was like, I'm looking at racism, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. No,
Well, all of it requires a brain flip, and all of us are going through it.
okay,
I'm going through it to see her as the number one.
explain.
Well, she's very feminine.
She's not a Barbara Jordan, right?
No.
Okay, because we grew up, and you wouldn't know this, Representative Reynolds. When we saw Barbara Jordan speak at, what was it, the '76 convention? It was
My
like,
faith in the Constitution.
oh,
I mean, is
I mean, and
very.
she was.
Yeah.
But to see this black woman, and she had a very, very alpha presentation. But we were so proud to see this black woman there. I mean, and she was brilliant. But she had um, she didn't have the soft presentation of Kamala Harris. Um, and we've been evolving. Because I guess probably the best mix of it you would see would be a Maxine Waters, who's very feminine, and she ain't taking
And
nothing.
tough.
Well, and tough. I mean, she's someone who, please, but her politics are so progressive they wouldn't have accepted her. She's someone who, you talk about feeling comfortable in a room. If there's going to be a fight, I'm coming behind her, and then maybe beside
Well,
her.
and I think that the heckler incident that I paid attention to yesterday, she never cracked a smile because it had obviously pissed her off. I mean, use that word, and so it allowed you to peer a little closer into her personality, and it's okay. Like, obviously, this person came through the rough and tumble world of California politics. That, in the words of Harold Washington, ain't beanbag either. And it's a contact sport. You don't win 3 times in California because you're a chump.
Local, state,
You're just about
state.
prepared to handle a New York hustler at that point. You know the type, And so she's obviously going to be tough as a prosecutor, but coming out of California politics, nobody's going to hand you a Senate seat. And to do all of that as a sort of woman who builds her career in her own right as a politician, I would just assume we don't really even know who this person is.
Mm-hmm.
We're about to find out. I think we're going to find that out. We're going to find out about Black woman energy on this planet. They're going to march like soldiers. And so this is going to be an electorate that is not going to be given to traditional polling. They're not going to actually know exactly what has hit them, because it's going deep down into the American experience, where you have the person who's been the least protected, the least acknowledged in the whole body politic, the Black woman, who's going to be absolutely energized. I just asked, because I asked, my wife is one. She's not a political person, but I knew what was going on day one when she comes to me and says, who never brings up this stuff necessarily, but only kind of involves herself in it because she think I might be interested. But this time she initiates. So what you think of Kamala? I knew what that meant. I knew that something was going deep into the grassroots. So I'm having a staff meeting, and the women on my staff, we must have a voter register at every service. Well, all right, I guess we do. So the point is that there's something that beyond Kamala, there's an incredible energy that's going to happen in the African American woman space that's going to translate into an energized electorate. Not to mention what it probably does in the popular culture when you're in a political season when people want something new. They want something different. And you probably can't get any different than the candidate that's been offered up on the Democratic side. And obviously she picked somebody. I mean, you're going to do Shapiro in the next segment, who's not going to try to overshadow her, who doesn't have these outsized political ambitions of their own. And so Walz kinds of fits a need that fulfills a need as one that allows her to make the point over and over again that she's the top of the ticket. This is her season. And I think her own political gifts are probably going to meet the moment from everything that I see. I think that she's a tough person. It wasn't to put Hillary down that I was mentioning the husband piece, and I know you didn't mean that, but I meant that this is a person that we have to make assumptions that we don't fully know how tough that person is. But she has to be tough to have made it to this point. And I think it's going to all come out. I think that part of it was the heckling yesterday. I was waiting to see I was waiting to see at the end of the tension of that confrontation, would there be a giggle? Would there be a laugh? There was none. It was the mama face. She was annoyed. And of course, that becomes revealing, that there's a tough person in there. And as you mentioned, this is the most powerful seat in the world. And at some innate level, the fire got to be in the belly. You got to want it more than you want anybody else. And you got to feel like you will walk over anybody that it takes to get there. Not the ethical piece, but
No.
As JD was about to find out if he walked over to her plane, another dimension of a person that's got something that they're gonna prove.
Because all women have that.
Yes.
And I mean, and quite frankly, I would venture to say, the nicer and gentler you are, and it's not that you are not being honest with people, but people mistake kindness for weakness. And you have to let people know, no, I'm not the one.
And know how to do it.
Yeah.
Because you've had to do it over and over again.
Yeah. My mother was talking with one of my line sisters once. This is way back in college. She said, well, my daughter's, she's very gentle and very, My line sister looked at her. Lolita said, I don't know that girl. Mrs. Jackson, with all due respect, I know someone who is, she's going to put her feet in the ground and she ain't moving. And my mother looked at her. She said, oh, because we were in the back of the line. There were 56 of us. She said, and the line started with her. They were like, she was like, okay, what?
Hey,
You know,
Santita, look at these black women prosecutors.
yeah.
Do any of them play?
What do black
I
mamas
love Fannie.
play?
I love Fannie Willis's Fannie, not Fannie. What is it?
Fannie Will.
Fannie Willis's
You thinking
remarks.
Fannie Lou Hamer? Come on.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, but my kids and I laughed about it because between my girls and I again is when she took umbrage about whether or not she needed a boyfriend, to pay some
Yeah.
bills, and she said, I mean, she sounded like my girls. Ain't no man never took care of me. Only my daddy ever paid my bills, And
Now I got into it with Dwight about that.
nobody
Dwight
but my
McKee.
daddy ever. Because
And Santita,
a man is not a plan.
That's right.
My
Yeah, I
daddy
said,
told me. Yeah.
Dwight was like, she sounds harsh. I said, no, wait. That's what my daddy told me.
No, that's
He
what my
said, no.
girls. Yeah.
He said, no, you are not for sale.
but Santita, and the reality is that when black women are very direct and very strong, then we get this other nonsense of angry black woman, right?
Yeah.
We heard that about Michelle Obama. Any strong Fonnie Willis, any strong black woman that is no nonsense, then the next thing they try to ding them with angry black woman. That's the pivot, right? That's the way that we dismiss them and try to shut them up.
Mm.
And I want to say this. I think that if you remember, there was a time when the myth was that blacks could be great running backs, wide receivers, and everything else, but not a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until Doug Williams and Warren Moon showed that blacks could be great quarterbacks. Now everybody wants a black quarterback. I believe that once Kamala breaks this glass ceiling and performs the way that we know that she can perform, then it will be, oh yeah, a woman could be a great president. But it's always the quote by Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it's done. And so, unfortunately, women are going to have to prove themselves at this level. Not that they should have to, right? But until people see it and it becomes customary and the norm, as opposed to the exception, right? Right now, we haven't seen a female president. We're just now seeing a female vice president. We haven't seen too many female generals. We haven't seen too many females, even U.S. senators. There's just a handful of them, right? It's been male dominated. So the more women break the glass ceiling, the more it becomes customary, the more it becomes the norm. Then I think it will help break some of those myths and the misogyny of, well, women can't do it this or women can't do that. So yes, it's unfortunate, but I think that we will eventually continue to evolve, just like we have come a long way with LGBTQ and things of that nature. It used to be like, oh, that's so taboo. Now it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's just normal. Love is love. Even though more conservative views still harbor resentment towards it, it is not as taboo as it once was. So they're still very conservative, antiquated thinking about women and the roles of women. But the more we see women in leadership roles, particularly at this stage, the more accepting it will be.
Well, you know what? Let me go behind the door for a minute, because we're talking about the public face. We know that there's a private reality that you deal with. After the crowds have cheered, she's got to walk into that White House. She's got to walk into the Situation Room. She's got to talk to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who are male, and they have a male. Please, women are catching the devil trying to get through Annapolis and West Point right now. Okay. That's the space she's walking into. Um, and so, and so let's be clear. Folks say all kinds of things to you in private that you don't dare get out because it would become a national scandal. And that's destabilizing. I'm just keeping it 100, y'all, because I've, been in the room, been in the space. I know there's some things, stuff that you got to swallow, Pastor Hatch and State Representative Reynolds. And you know that too, State Representative, because there's some things that are said in those meetings that you're like, if this gets out, you're going to lose your seat. All just the devil's home is going to break loose through the state and through the country if they know that you said this, that you did this. Pastor Hatch, you know this is true. So this is the culture she's walking into. And my thing is, how do you prepare someone for that? I have a friend who, she works at the White House. And she was in a very, very high level position. And it's little things that happen, right? And her seat was, she sat next to the president. But she'd get to the meeting maybe 20, 30 minutes before, and someone would move her placard like 3 or 4 places down. So she couldn't get near the president, right? And she called me and she was like, I'm just so frustrated. I said, let me tell you what you do. What time's the meeting again? 7. I said, get there at 5:30. Because I know somebody's there. Now you make sure your placard stays there. And I said, now you go get your coffee and you sit in your seat starting at 6. Because the president's seat is immovable. She called me back. She said, I've been doing it for a few days and this has worked. I said, because there are a lot of things you have to do, Pastor Hatch, State Representative Reynolds, so that you can get through, so you can be effective, right? I mean, look, we all deal with it in our spaces. So my question for you is, if you could sit down with her, Pastor Hatch, and counsel her, because you had to live with a person who was extremely strong and someone who's revered in her community, and she's revered as a partner. Your wife is very feminine and very firm, and I conflate that with femininity and womanliness, because my mother is very feminine, but not to cross her. And my father, somebody said something to him, and he said, "You do not want that smoke. Don't say that." I saw the Cosby Show one day when Bill Cosby looked at some guy. He said, "Man, don't say that. Claire is going." Okay, you said it now. Okay, he said, "Now I'm gonna sit back because Claire's about to take you apart," and she did. I think it was Elvin. I watch every show like 50 times. so I mean, she was like, "Wait a minute, get him. You may serve him like we're in a restaurant." Oh no, no, no! I get him coffee. He gets me coffee. See, that's your problem, Elvin. And if you don't get this right, you're never gonna have another man anywhere, another woman, a good woman anywhere, anytime, any place. Do you get that, honey? He almost jumped off that sofa to get her some coffee. Can I do anything? He said, "I told you, man. Just shut up." You remember that episode? Come on, y'all. Don't leave me out here hanging.
I know you.
Come on. We all know the Cosby Show, and I ain't leaving Bill Cosby hanging. I still love Bill Cosby. He's still the man. I love him. Yeah.
Different World, the best show ever made.
Ever. Got everybody. We were at Howard's homecoming. We were like, I know you didn't come here. All these folks, they just claimed going to a black college because that was the thing. So love you, Bill Cosby. Love you. And love your work, and thank God for the work that you've done. That having been said, how do you counsel her? Because she's very close to Pastor Amos Brown. That's right. Her pastor. Everybody. So when you talk about her not being culturally black, no. And Amos Brown, Reverend Amos Brown, who's a very dear family friend, is legend and extremely progressive. She will call him, and he can always get a call through to her, but he doesn't bug her. He'll say, you know what? He'll call the most trusted people on her staff, tell her she needs to look at so-and-so, or she needs to call so-and-so. He's not ordering her around. He's just he's her pastor.
In every way.
That's why, there was some disconnect with President Obama and Reverend Wright, because it's like your pastor's like your spiritual daddy. I
A
talked about Reverend
father.
Clay Evans every.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, they played him on the screen at Mickey Warren's funeral this past Saturday, and I burst into loud tears because I miss my pastor. My, I can't even talk about it. I
And
miss
that's Amos Brown to
to her.
Kamala. I
So
mean,
what
he's
was
guided her every step of the way. And of course, as you mentioned, I mean, it's a spiritual father is a father in everywhere in our tradition. I mean, Kamala, not only first HBCU, you know what else she is? She's the first missionary Baptist in the White
absolutely?
House.
That's
Not
right.
because missionary Baptist, not regular Baptist.
Because I'm
That
I'm a missionary Baptist.
missionary is the black ones.
That's right. I'm a
Because that
missionary
was,
Baptist.
well, my son and I doing a piece on Lot Carey, who was the first African American Baptist to go back to preach the gospel in Liberia on the
Hmm.
continent, and he is akin to Richard Allen.
Hmm.
The missionary Baptist it has a global mission vision of taking the gospel to the black diaspora. And so it is a pan-Africanist vision when you're missionary Baptist.
That
And
part.
so she would be the first missionary Baptist, to be president. And that's her faith tradition. I mean, Amos Brown is not her pastor in name only.
At all.
He
So I mean, but
guided her, counseled her.
what would you tell her to do when she finds herself? I mean, because and knowing Pastor Brown, because he's one of your spiritual fathers, he's one of
Yeah,
your mentors.
yeah, like your dad.
Yeah,
He's
not.
yeah,
I'm not excluding Reverend because,
yeah,
of
yeah,
course, Pastor Hatch used to work at Rainbow Push in
yeah.
addition to pastoring his church because
Mentor by
Reverend
Reverend.
wanted him to understand. I see something in you, Pastor Hatch, and I want you to come with me, like Dr. King did with him,
Yes, yes,
because you can, and you see it all over your ministry. That's why we were at your church, and you opened it up for all the pastors to talk about Sonia Massey. I mean, you've got a very progressive. You have the ministry that is really rooted in that part of our tradition because we have a conservative part too.
yes.
What would you advise her to do? How would you advise her with given? I mean, because I've seen your daughters. They're beautiful and they are tough. Your wife is beautiful, and they are tough. And you've had women in leadership roles in your church. I mean, real. I mean, they run your church alongside the men. But I mean, just how. What would you advise her to do? How would you advise her to handle this moment when you got JD Vance standing on the tarmac?
Yeah.
You know, come on.
Well, this is her moment, and she's like the Jackie Robinson, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
one who is going forth where there is no precedent. But you know, I think this is her moment, and she has to allow God to use and be herself. I think she's fully equipped. And so anything to encourage that, I think that becomes a role of the people around her to help build a confidence, which is what people are talking about, because everybody needs that. And obviously, like you mentioned, I thought profoundly yesterday, she didn't make that decision by herself about Waltz. Nobody makes those kind of decisions by themselves. It's a team effort. It's a team sport, and she's the leader of the team. And I thought it was an incredibly smart decision, but I knew that it came from a multitude of counsel, and that's the way that she will govern. But I think we have to say, what does it profoundly say about America that we're just reaching this point where we can embrace a woman as the national leader, when all over the world, all over the Bible, all over history, we
Mm.
have women leaders. There's nothing novel about it. We would consider, I guess, Mexico to be somewhat less than America. But when they had their most recent election, they were guaranteed that the next president was going to be a woman because there were two women running
But you
in
had
Mexico.
Israel, you had Golden State,
Israel, yeah,
you had India,
India,
Uganda,
Ghana,
Ghana.
yeah,
I mean,
Selena Johnson in
So
Liberia. I
but
mean,
wait a minute. On the African continent, there's still resistance. Now you know the pushback that Winnie Mandela got.
yeah,
She was just a little too much. Now let's keep it 100. She was, even though had it not been for her standing 10 toes down for her husband, we would not have known who Nelson Mandela was. And only God knows what she endured in detention. And so when she died, she had the people's funeral because she was truly the mother of the nation.
yes.
And you know, and I all the kudos to her. But this is a fascinating conversation. I only have a couple more minutes here, and I want you all to come back so we can talk about this. But State Representative Reynolds, your thoughts? Because I
Well,
mean, Terry said that, what is it? Terry Watkins said JD Fan standing on the tarmac was a threat. Yeah, she's time enough for him, but be clear that that's coming. And quite honestly, in a backwards kind of way, that's a compliment to her because he said, means she has arrived, and she has to let him know, I'm not playing with you, and he's gonna meet that Kamala, and I can't wait.
well, I like the fact that she is not backing down. Just like when she was on the stump speech and she said boldly, and she didn't mince her words as to Trump, if you got something to say to me, say it to my face, very emphatically. So I think that it's good that she can be strong and still be feminine at the same time, because it's not a contradiction, right? It's not an oxymoron. You can be a strong, competent, feminine woman, right? You don't have to be the image of Barbara Jordan, or you don't have to be some butch person. You can be beautiful and strong, and it doesn't make you weak because you're a woman, or it doesn't make you a B. You know what I'm talking about? Because
Yeah,
you're a strong black
but
woman.
but you need to be the space to be a Robert Jordan, because if that's who you
You do,
are, that's who
absolutely
you are, right? But this is another, like you said, yet another iteration of
correct,
womanliness, because we
correct,
express in all kinds of ways.
correct.
Lori Lightfoot presented in a way,
That's
but she was like,
correct.
no, no, I am a woman, because I remember interviewing her and asking her. It was in the George Floyd moment. I said, you are a wife, you are a mother. How do you explain this to your child? She said, and she got very quiet. She said, thank you for that. No one's ever asked me about being a mother. I said, yeah, you are one. So, I mean, we present in all kinds of ways, but you're right, State Representative Reynolds, because that picture of femininity, of womanliness,
That's
is
right.
not respected.
That's right.
And it ought to be.
It should be right. We don't need to try to put a woman in a box, just like we can't put a man in a box. It's one size fits all, right? And so we're gonna have to grow to respect and appreciate a woman that is the commander in chief, that is the leader of the free world. And I'm happy to see her on this national stage. And I'm happy to see her push back against whether it's Trump or the protester
Mhm.
or JD Vance or whoever it is. She has to assert herself that I am not weak. I am not subservient. And I don't think she's trying to overdo it. I think she is just that confident woman. Remember, she's a former prosecutor. You can't be no weak prosecutor prosecuting criminals and murderers and molesters and like that. That's not her. You can't win in the competitive environment in California to achieve the office that she achieved. She wasn't expected to win those races that she won in, but she did. And she didn't do that because she was weak or docile. She did it because she was competent and that she was strong. And so I think that we are seeing a transformational leader emerge right here before our eyes. And I think this is going to open the door. and the pastor mentioned Jackie Robinson. This is
Mhm.
our Jackie Robinson moment that is going to make it open the door for other Kamalas to come behind her in the future. And so I think that this is not an anomaly. This is something that is going to be the norm. And I'm looking forward to seeing more and more women of color, rise to the leadership positions that they deserve, because women deserve, as Shirley Chisholm said, a seat at the table. And if they don't have a chair for them, bring their own damn chair, because
There
they
you
earned it. They earned it. And,
Well,
and I say that because I was raised by a single Black woman. I
mhm.
have the utmost respect for women. Maybe some men haven't received that kind of nurturing, and they have been conditioned to believe that they're superior. But that's the same kind of prejudice that we have to reject from white supremacists that believe that they're more supreme because of their race. It's no different when it comes to sexism. And that's the way we have to paint it so that people can understand it. Do you believe that whites are better? No. Well, why do you think men are better? Oh, I didn't think about it like that. So we have to we have to throw it back at them.
Well, I'm going to have to run to the second hour. I'm going to see you there, State Representative Reynolds and Reverend Hatch. If you want to join us, we're talking about Governor Shapiro because she's getting pushback on her decision on that, and he is going to lay out Sam Rosenthal about what the pushback on Shapiro was and is. And so, and let us remember as we look at this Jackie Robinson moment, remember Jackie Robinson would leave the baseball season, and he would go campaign for the NAACP and civil rights. So let's not misuse Jackie Robinson. Y'all need to understand who he was, really. These people came out 10 toes down on Black rights, on human rights. So if you're going to do it, do the whole thing. And no one, and you have to explain that standing up for the least of these means you're standing up for all of these. That's it. It's just that simple. What did Reverend say when he ran for president in 1983? He said, yes, I'm a Black candidate. That is obvious. But what I'm giving you is an American campaign from the bottom up, from the manger up, not from the mansion down. That's what's different about this campaign. Is giving you a view of America from the least of these, from the lost, from the locked out, from the unvoiced. And that is what we have to demand. Black women still make 69 cents on the dollar. Indigenous women make far less. Indigenous women have to work almost 2 full years to make what a white man makes in 12 months. Black women have to work 19 months. Getting pregnant in America is a death sentence for all American women, white to black. Not right. And nobody should go to bed hungry or wake up the same. Everybody deserves a home. Call it what you will. I say that's Jesus' plan. How about that?
Amen.
Boom. Second hour. Oh, I got an amen from Pastor Hatch.
Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you. Thank you.
I second
Woo.
that. Amen, sister.
Wait a minute.
Sister Jackson.
Woo. Oh my word. From the
Evangelist.
professor. No, from the professor, no less. Okay. Everybody come on over to the second hour of the Santita Jackson Show.